Hey everybody, before we get started, I just want to remind you this episode is brought to you by our patrons like FGO Comics and Drago66. If you like what we do and want to see us do more, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to episodes early and lots of other goodies, and it would really help us out. Thanks for your support, everyone. Hey everybody, welcome to Let's Talk FGO Wanted, the show where we talk about whether or not you want to roll a 4-star. So, full disclosure, this is like my third take of this video. I don't know why I'm so bad about this, but I keep getting like off focus and forgetting stuff, so I'm gonna try and make this third run the charm. And hopefully, admitting it up front that this is like my third time practicing this through will, you know, psych me up properly. So today, we're gonna be talking about Illya, or Illyasviel von Einzbern, for people who have more time than me. Though clearly I've got a lot of time if I've done this 3 times, or self-deprecate. And we're gonna kind of let some stuff out of the bag as usual. I know sometimes I hold back a little, but I mean, you click the thumbnail, it's in the title. There's no point in holding back. And usually this is the point in the show where I mention that we talk about 4 things. We talk about the history, the lore, the mechanics, and the rarity. Not the artificial number rarity, the actual how rare is this banner / rate up thing. But Illya is an OC character. Like, she's completely original to Type Moon. There's not a distinction between her history and her lore in this sense, because when I say lore, I mean deepest lore, as in, you know, in video game, or at least in the universe of Fate stuff, right? Normally, I talk about their actual, okay, so here's what real life says about this character, and then here's what Fate is specifically saying about this character. Those are basically the same thing, in this case. And Illya is really the second servant to do this. The first limited SSR to be completely OC is Void Shiki, who appeared in the K&K event, and honestly, this is very similar, with the way Illya is the 5-star, and then Chloe, or Kurdo, is the free 4-star welfare, just like regular Shiki was. And I'm just counting pseudo-servants, like, even though El Melo is mostly Waver, and not the Chinese guy whose name I can never pronounce, because I never understand what those people are doing with Z. And, like, Ishtar later this year, and boy howdy, is there gonna be an Ishtar one. But, yeah, Illya's, like, wholly original, and she's limited, like I said. And in fact, I like to talk about how, you know, the format of this was limited, and then we got away from that a little. You can expect the format to go back to limited servants for quite some time, because there's definitely no new story locks until Babylonia, and I don't think there are any more permanent adds. Though I guess, technically, I should talk about Vanilla Tamamo when her rate-up comes back for the Halloween I'll probably do that, guys. Also, I realized while recording this the first 2 times that, if I'm doing repeats, that means I have to do a Wanted episode on Jean Alter. That'll be fun. That'll be right up there with the future Wanted episode I have to do on Merlin, unless I don't, because everybody wants Merlin, you know why. Anyway, that's enough pontificating. Let's jump into the quote-unquote history and lore, right? Okay, so, the first thing we need to distinguish is that the playable Caster Illya is not from FSN. She's not that Illya, because technically, Illya is originally a homunculus made by the Einzbern clan, and blah, 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 a whole big FGO lore thing, or at least FSN lore thing, which you should already know. And if you don't, familiarize yourself, okay? Like, I'm okay with being a dirty secondary in that sense that I haven't had the time to go through and read the whole, you know, fan translation of the visual novel that's not officially out in English, but, like, still, familiarize yourself with the background, guys. So, Illya is a homunculus, and the Einzbern homunculus are also lesser Grail terminals. That'll probably come up later. But that's the reason why she looks young, even though technically she's older than Shiro. She is Shiro's older sister because he was adopted after her. I think she's, like, mentally 18, even though her physical aging is weird in FSN. Again, not this character. Illya from FGO is the one from Fate, Kaleid, Liner, Prisma Illya. We're going to say Prisma from now on, because the event is called Prisma Causeway, and quite frankly, that's a mouthful. But that is a spin-off manga and now anime, which is entirely separate, though you guys should check it out. It's got a lot of FGO references in it. The author of the manga clearly plays Smith, and I think for the longest time he didn't have an Illya. Anyway, completely different thing. So that is a spin-off, like I said, and this is the one the character comes from. And to kind of summarize her history there, basically, after Grail War 4, the Fate Zero situation, that somehow didn't end terribly for everyone, or at least not for the Emiya family, and so, or the Emiya Einzbern family, because her last name's still Einzbern. I don't know. That's a whole thing that I don't think the setting comments on. But anyway, Kiritsugu and Illyasviel are still alive, though I don't think you see Kiritsugu at all in the anime. If you do, it's very brief, because I don't remember him at all. But they do a thing, so Illya is basically reborn, so she's kind of a grade schooler, but not, because she also still did have an older, like, 10 years of life, and then you get into Chloe, and that's a whole different other lore rigmarole, which we're not touching on right now. But anyway, so I guess the best way to say it is that Illya is kind of de-aged so she can live a normal life and not have to deal with more homunculus bullshit and be more human-like, but she's still got magical stuff going, which is why she is selected by Kaleidostic Ruby to be a magical girl and help Rin fight class cards, which are another whole reference to classic FSN stuff. And that's basically the history you need to know. If you full deal, go ahead and watch Kaleid by Illya. There are 4 production seasons, I want to say, in a movie? Yeah, something like that. And also I should point out, there's going to be more anime later, because the manga's not done yet. It's still in publication, of course. But anyway, yeah, so I think specifically the Prisma event is a tie-in to the second or something like that. Don't know. I'd have to double check. Anyway, if you want the real history, go ahead and watch that. Don't worry. Pause the video. I'll be here. I can wait. Okay, you did all that? Or you're just going to tell me you did all that so we can move on? Fine. All right. That's basically, I think, all the lore and history we need to cover. I will say that she is a major NPC player in the actual Prisma Causeway event, so presumably if you are not sure on whether or not you want to roll her or haven't rolled her yet, you'll be able to try her out and get a little experience, you know, trial quest style. Alright, so having stretched that out for as long as I need to and hopefully given everybody sufficient explanation of her character and what's going on there, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the mechanics, because that's probably why lots of you are here. Alright, so mechanics. The graphics should now be on screen, you can see the whole thing. Let's start at the top. And by start at the top, let's actually say the best comparison to a character you can probably make with Illya is you should go back in time and watch my Sansa video. That's probably the major alternate to Illya's slot as far as casters go, okay? Because she isn't actually an offensive type caster, which will always be a bit of a misnomer because casters tend to be weighted slightly towards more HP anyway, as you can see even from Illya. And they have a negative damage multiplier. They do 90% damage, as opposed to, say, like, a lot of extra classes and sabers do, like, 100% damage, berserkers do 110, I believe, stuff like that. So, damage-dealing casters are always slightly hamstrung by the underlying game mechanics. There's not a lot Delayworks can do about it now, but here we are. So, as far as her core stats go, Illya stacks up. She is number 2 in terms of attack. She is tied with Caster Nero, but obviously, Caster Nero is AoE, so if you're trying to do pure damage, you want to lean towards the single target. She has a noticeably less attack than Sansa, but has a noticeably higher HP also, about the same difference. And she has a slight higher HP over Caster Nero as well. So, especially combined with some of her skills, she's got a little bit more longevity to do her damage, which is good, because we're going to talk about some oddities with her damage in a second when we actually get to her noble Phantasm. Though I'm sure you guys can read and can tell kind of what I'm talking about. Star Absorption and Star Duration are fairly normal for a caster. Her NP charge per attack looks a little low, but then you look down and notice that she's got 3 arts cards in her deck, and they are 5 hits. She will gain NP, don't you worry. She also passively gains NP 3% per turn, to completely spoil the only interesting part of her passives. Other than that, fairly normal. Got a quick card, got a buster card. Also got a decent number of hits on her extra attack. That's pretty good. Pretty good stuff. So, yeah, I guess we should just jump into her noble Phantasm, because there's not a lot to talk about with her underlying core stats, right? They're there, you can see them. So, Quintet Fuhrer, her noble Phantasm is a single target buster noble Phantasm, got a couple hits in there. Has an overcharge effect to first increase your own buster performance by a minimum of 20% and a maximum of 80%, though that means you have to be able to go all the way to 500%. A little rough, guys. But it's a decent self-damage steroid, kind of helps chew through that slightly negative damage modifier, though obviously it's not as bad as it is, and has decently scaling damage, you know, for a buster NP. Now, here's the bad news. Demerit. Decrease your own attack and defense by 10% for 3 turns. So, normally, you guys think, especially with the arts focus in a caster, what you think with a lot of offensive casters is NP spam, right? They want to drop their NP often as they can. But even though you've got a couple of good damage steroids, not only her NP's inherent effect, but to completely spoil her first skill, it's just mana burst, guys. It's called something special, but it's just mana burst. She has a couple of damage steroids, but you still don't want to take that 10% less damage, right? Like, if you're trying to focus on purely dealing damage, you don't want to deal with that demerit. Now, we'll talk a little bit later about some stuff she can do to mitigate that, but still, right? Like, if you're trying to do damage, you don't want to deal with that downside. Now, there is a interlude for her NP, but that does not remove the demerit. It just adds a couple buffs she does to herself. She will buff her NP gain further, and will also buff her star gem. Now, you may think, based on, like, she's got a skill increase NP gain, she's got a passive skill to chart her NP. Her NP will eventually even give her more NP gain. You think, man, she's gonna fire every time. Like I said, you might not necessarily want to do that. You can power through, but it's going to hurt your overall damage. So instead, Illya is less DPS because remember PS is per second, and more burst damage. She has a distinct, what I would call, based on other games I play, fire duty cycle, right? You fire it, you wait 3 rounds-ish, unless you have some kind of debuff cleanse, and then you have another support servant who can basically undo the malice, and then you have to fire again, alright? And Illya will be pretty ready to fire when those turns are up, because of her great NP gain possibilities, but still, it's a little more spaced out, so it's not going to be to everyone's flavor, but she still hits pretty hard, alright? Because like we said, the Cheerful type Mystic Code is just Manaverse. It's a 5-turn cooldown with up to 50% Buster effectiveness, and then another 20%. So you're looking at like 70% Buster effectiveness up. That's going to hit pretty hard. Her second skill is Child of Nature B. This is the same as the one with Illyasviel. It gives her Invincible for 1 turn, and increases her NP gain for 3 turns, every 6 turns. So not quite enough to dodge an NP every time, but still pretty good Invincible. Helps shore up if you've got a bad turn coming, and for instance, you know that her defense is down, and it helps keep her NP gain up to get that NP ready to fire a second time when the time. Now, skill number 3 is an interesting one. This is Suspicious Medicine A. It recovers an ally's HP up to 3,000, so that's a decent heal. It gives a 70% chance to apply debuff immunity to yourself 1 time, and a 70% chance to apply Guts, which I believe is also to herself. It might be to the ally. Don't know. Anyway, the thing here is, apart from the slightly longer cooldown, is that obviously RNG skills suck. You really want that debuff immunity to proc, because that means her NP can be fired and you don't gotta worry about the downside. You can also just use it to heal her if you need to bring her high HP back up. But it's still RNG based. Now, there's a couple ways to get around this. Obviously, Ozymandias' third skill gets around this pretty good. That's why he's great. Check out that Wanted video if you like. We've done that. Also, eventually, Chloe gets an Interlude where her third skill does nothing, gets buffed, but it does nothing else but help ensure Illya's success chance, right? So her buffs will proc better. So there's a couple little team comps you can do to help that out, but in general, it's a little rough. If you want to skip that fire duty cycle, you definitely are going to want to try and make that work. Otherwise, you can just suck it up and hope it procs. Now, she's got a passive magic resistance B, which gives her a decent inherent debuff resist. It doesn't apply to herself, obviously, but still, it's got some good effects in there. And then, like we said, unlimited prana supply, which will probably translate it as unlimited mana supply. Who knows? But that gives her a little bit of NP gauge every time. So as you can see, Illya's kind of interesting. She can hit really hard, and especially with those steroids and with a proper support team, she can fire in, like, real hard, even over Sanzo. And Sanzo's, her quote-unquote defensive skill is very weird, because it's a taunt that also has a damage cut on it, right? Like, I think everybody has looked at that kit and gone, I mean, taunt is cool, but it's very weird on this caster who's technically quite fragile. So Illya's defensive skill is definitely better there, but she's a little more selfish than Sanzo, right? Like, she can heal a target ally's HP, but a lot of that skill you're going to be saving to use for herself at debuff immunity, whereas Sanzo does debuff immunity for the whole team. If you're lucky to roll both, they play great together. You're going to trash some assassins. But yeah, so there's some stuff to think about, I think. Most people will probably be rolling her not just because they want a damage-focused caster, because Sanzo's permanent, and hey, Kerke's in like a year and a half now. So, alright, like, there's definitely some other alternatives. A lot of people don't even go for the pure buster. They, like, make Medea and Rule Breaker spam work, that type of stuff. The infamous joke in our Discord, hey, what's the best way to kill assassin bosses, i.e., who's the best damage caster, is to say Coup Alter. Stuff like that. So a lot of people will be rolling because it's the Illya character, but she's definitely a solid alternative, I think. She just has a slightly different strategy. You may want to play a little tighter with team comp than you would with a Sanzo, and definitely, like, try and give her some more damage steroids to make up for that fact that casters inherently. So, let's go ahead and talk about actual rarity. So, at what points is Illya on rate up? Well, very interesting. The Prisma event, which isn't announced yet. I don't know if I said that earlier, but once again, as of the time I'm recording this video, that isn't announced yet, but it'll probably be announced soon, so I want to have a video in my back pocket so we can release it in a timely fashion, because we like to do these timely, because that's when we get the views. But Prisma hasn't been rerun, which is a shame, because Chloe is a great welfare servant that everybody wants. But still, that's the first time she's available. She should come back on a rate up later this year in the Happy New Year 2017, which will be Happy New Year 2019, I guess, for us, because it was January 1st, 2017 for Japan. So that'll probably be then. Maybe they'll move it to Thanksgiving or do something more, but there'll be another up for her later in the year. Now, there was a commemoration campaign for the movie, which featured another banner for her. I don't know if we'll do the whole... Once again, this is another one of those weird things. It's like talking about, like... We talked about, like, banners for, like, Lancer Artoria. I don't know if they'll do this per se, but they could easily do the banner rerun, because it's basically a rerun of the summon banner, and then there's a commemorative quest, right? Like, we've done commemorative quests without banners before. Extella, by the way. We could easily do a summon banner without a commemorative quest. So, I don't know. That's probably a third one. And eventually, we hope they'll rerun Prisma Causeway, or there'll be a sequel or something. That'd be pretty neat, you know. We know there's more anime coming. Maybe when they announce the next season, they'll, you know, do a tie-in collab. Who knows? They'll at the very least do an event of some type. But yeah, so keep an eye out, okay? It's, once again, whole thing. She's pretty rare, but obviously, you know, the major competitor is Sanzo, who's, you know, while her rate-ups aren't necessarily super common, she's permanent, she's always there. You never know. And that about wraps this up. I hope everybody had fun. If there's any, you know, questions, go ahead and, well, you know, we'll jump to the end, kind of. If there's any questions, you can go ahead and leave those in the comments down below. Got any thoughts on her analysis, or you got any ideas to comp to maybe patch up some of those holes or maximize some of that effectiveness? If you like this video, give it a like. If you're new here and haven't already, please subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell for notifications, whether or not you're already subscribed, so you always know when we post a video, because like I said, you never know when we're going to post these. You never know when a video might pop up and you want to see it right away, because I'm influencing whether or not you want to roll. I'm going to keep making the Wanted pun, guys, until I get tired of it or I forget about it. So that's basically Wanted. Like we said at the front of the show, don't forget you can support us on Patreon. You could have gotten this episode early. And we also have a Discord where you can ask your questions to me. Alright, well, good luck on your rolls, guys. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off and prep for whatever the hell the next Wanted video is. Oh, I'm going to go in the back and look that up. Don't forget to tune into the regular Let's Talk FGO, where I'm sure we have plenty to say about the actual Prisma event whenever it's coming out and all that other stuff.